Well, John, we're sitting in the office where it all began 52 years ago, Lynn River. But let's go back before Lynn River's time, and just for you to explain how you, in your early days at Mount Peel, how it all sort of began.
Yeah. So we grew up here and went to Peel Forest School, and I'm one of 6. But the person, of course, I was closest to, which much you know, was Mark. And we did all sorts of things together as boys. And after our education, I went and worked for Melville Turton for a couple of years. Mark went to the North Island. And then, in fact, we travelled overseas together in 1959. And on our way home, we went and stayed with a friend in Colorado, and there they had a cattle crush and head bale on that was much superior to anything that was in New Zealand, because when you caught an animal by the head and did whatever you had to do to it, and then when you went to release it, you released it backwards and out the side, whereas this head bale allowed the animal to go out through the front. So we decided there was a real opportunity to make that cattle crush in New Zealand. The name of the company in the United States was Powder River. So we thought, well, if we're going to have a cattle equipment company, why not call it something around here? So we called it Lynn River, which really is just a made up from Powder River. And we came, and that's where the Lynn name came from. With all this going on, Mark and I were very fortunate that our father let us have a look at farming Mount Peel. So we were I was about 25, 26, and Mark was a few years younger than me, and we had a fantastic time developing Mount Peel. So we're doing that as well. Now, I went to England on a field scholarship in 1968 and saw the Charolais cattle and realised that they had a place in New Zealand. So we got involved in Charolais cattle, importing the semen from England to here, multiplying the animals here and then selling them on to Australia. Because of all that going on, cattle had to be identified, so he looked at methods of identifying cattle, and he picked up 2 or 3 different tags, plastic ear tags, polyurethane tags, and brought them back here.
Because just explain in the past how you would have identified cattle.
You're right. So the method of identification was, and we all don't move fast enough, was hot iron branding. Not much of that happened in New Zealand, but certainly right across the States. You branded them with a hot iron on their rump. But New Zealand, you had a ear mark in the ear, but nobody really had got into ear tags. But our friend Gene Ritchey, who we thought, when we saw the ear tag, was a big-time manufacturing fella, came to New Zealand and stayed here, and he was a rancher exactly the same as us, but he had a mind that went a bit like Mark's and had developed this polyurethane ear tag that was totally flexible. Again, if we wanted to anchor things and have rigid, hard.
So just running back over all this, you were in America. Mark was in America. You'd gone to England. Yeah. Your father had said, well, we want you to run Peel Forest, Mount Peel, yeah. And then the air tag idea had come after the cattle crush. Yeah. So how did you sort of allocate all your time and efforts into making all these things a success?
Yeah. Good people, good farm staff, you know, people like Patrick, who with us 27 years, you know, good farm staff, but we were still running the thing, and because the 2 of us, one could go away and then the other was there. We never really went away together again. And Mark did a lot of travelling, really, and travelling internationally, and that's how we got into the deer business as well, because he and Tim Wallace would travel a lot. So get back to the ear tag. So then Gene Ritchey gave us the rights to manufacture and distribute the tags in New Zealand and up in the islands. And I'm not exactly sure how that happened. We got alongside Plastic Products, which is a plastic manufacturing business in Hamilton.
Was that AHI?
Yeah, I think it must have been, yeah. And Mark got on really well with the head man up there, and they made them up there. Big injection moulding equipment, very big injection moulding equipment, and they made them for us. But when you think about it, the firms weren't really that interested, that had other ideas and people hadn't carried them out. One of the things that helped us was I was very involved in cattle breeding, cattle research, and so I did my Nuffield scholarship on. We'd always got close to the scientists like Clive Dalton and Ruakura, and we knew all those people. So we got all those research places using the ear tags, and then we got alongside Lands and Survey and those sort of people. We went directly to them. And we had those same discussions about how we sold them through now. We did all that just like you do now. So we thought we would maybe sell 80,000 tags a year, and the orders would come in here to this office by mail, come in here, mailman would drop the order off here, piece of paper, so many 500 tags here, there and everywhere, come here to this desk, and we'd put them in a little pile, put them in a chocolate box, and take them down to the packing shed where the tags had come in from Hamilton. We'll show you the packing shed. They'd come in bulk to the packing shed. Piece of papers went down there. The wives on the station packaged them up for Joe Brown or North Auckland, put them in a box like that. School bus, we had our own school bus. School bus was parked up here. One of the wives drove it, went down, picked up the tags, took them down to the Peel Forest post office. It was up to the post office to get distribute them, and away it went. So we thought we would sell 80,000 tags a year. I think in our second or third year we sold 1.25 million tags at 10 cents a tag profit within the. And I said to Will, the other thing that we never realised at the time, which you have all that gloves on in storage down there, we actually sold the tags and had the money in the bank before we paid the manufacturer. So we didn't have to.
Was that because of the demand for the thing?
Demand, yeah, you're right. Yes, the demand was, we didn't have to hold a stock of them at all. Yeah.
Well, that was good thinking on your part as far as cash flow goes.
Yes, that's right. I said to somebody once that, and I've used this, how lucky Mark and I were that it was the right time and so on. And the Secretary of Dad said to me, "No, John, not luck. Opportunities pass everybody every day. It's the ability to see the opportunity and pick it up and do something with it." And I must say, we really did do that through our farming career, and especially with the ear tag. We just saw that it was the right opportunity. Government demanding TB testing, all that stuff was happening.
Yep. So tell me, John, so at what stage did this sort of grow to a certain extent and thought, well, we've actually got to shift the business from a sort of farming business into an actual, to where there's more people and more buildings and more infrastructure. So at what stage did you decide to shift the business to Geraldine?
I suppose it was after about our third year that we realised we weren't going to be able to keep up. So we did right to that site. I just saw we bought a old house for $6,000 on that site, employed Graham Murray, and did it from there. But by that time, the tags were starting to slip in sales because our competitor, the person who was already making tags in New Zealand, was called Delta Plastics. All Flex grew into, but their tag was two hard plastic sides with pins through the air, caught on the fence and ripped the air. And they realised that polyurethane was the way to go, and ours had a terrible way of putting it through the air with a trocar and a slit, and they had a pair of pliers that put the tag in much more successfully than ours. And now we could have spent a lot of money on developing, and other people would, who've got something like that, would have developed a better tag, a better Ritchey tag. But we didn't. We didn't go down that route, and I still think it was the right thing we did. Tax in New Zealand was high at that time, so Lynn River actually bought the farm next door, 3,000 acres next door, Waikari Hills. It was in 3 paddocks, totally undeveloped, and all the profits from the air tags went into land development.
So you were focusing back on the farming department.
Yeah. We were. So, and that was, I still think that was the right thing to do. When you look at the way All Flex goes now, we'd never have kept up with that sort of.
So Lynn River as a business was there, Waikari Hills getting the investment and the profits from that company. So then how did Lynn River sort of transform into its next?
Well, well, the thing is, you're right. We've always had Geraldine and this area and Mount Peel all was something pretty special and a great place to have a business. So by that time we'd bought the building, had Graham Murray, and we needed to start to do something in Geraldine. And when Roe came over to join me in my Nuffield, we were at the Royal Show and we saw these slinkskin, lovely gloves made out of young sheep, and we decided that we could do that sort of thing in Geraldine. So we started to get away from the tags. In fact, we sold the tag business to Talbot in Christchurch. Yeah, they bought it, but it faded right away quite quickly. So we got into sheepskins, sheep type products.
Yeah. So that was where you were making quite a number of different sheep skin type products.
Yes, we were. Yeah, and we made those everybody's keen about car seat. Remember car seat covers? Yes. And so we contracted to Bowrens to sew up the car seat covers. We did that on contract. Yes. But really it took quite some time to. Well, we never got back to making the sort of profits ever that the tag business had made. In fact, we never, from that time on, I don't think for 20 years, we never took a dividend out of the company.
But you were trying to build the company, I guess,
we
from...
We were looking for ideas, and then, because of my involvement in the meat industry, we found that South Frozen Meat had a glove division that they were going to sell leather glove making, so we bought that. So that's how that got going.
So that got you into initially into the glove business.
Yes.
And that would have been around what sort of time? Late 70s?
Yes.
Or?
Yeah, 80s. Yeah, going in late 70s, 80s. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So suddenly you had a customer, the meat works, the meat processing plants, you were making leather gloves, you were still doing sort of lamb cover products, slinkskin type products.
So we did that. when we made those slingskin gloves, we made that famous story. We didn't have anybody to sell, so I said, "Well, we'll put my wife, Ro, we were living over here and had 4 little kids. So we said, well, we'll put her on the road." So she took the gloves and went to Auckland and sold our entire output in about the first 3 days.
Yes.
And so those were hand sewn, those hand sewn gloves. I need to show you some. So that's we bundled along, really wanting to build the business in Geraldine and to grow it. But
so after that, then what was the next sort of move really for Lynn River? And how many staff did you have down at
well, we had quite a few, you see, when we were sewing up leather products, we actually had quite a few. So 10 or 15 people, I suppose we had.
Right, so what stage did you sort of expand into tool belts and things like that?
Yes, that was during, that was the same sort of era.
Right, because they were pretty successful.
Yes, they were. If ever we'd made a mistake, I think we shouldn't have sold that division, because what he knows, Lynn River, carpenter's aprons.
And I think we still get people today coming and looking for Lynn River tool belts, and that's probably about 20 years ago when you sold it. So,
you're right.
But so then let's sort of go further forward from there. Then the glove business was ticking over with the leather gloves, and our sort of relationships with the meatwork sort of grew out of that, I guess. And then suddenly people were looking overseas. So how did we get into the shower? Because it's about the time when shower came on board.
Well, it was due to really Lindsay Phillips, with the whole thing in New Zealand was changing. You see, when I first got involved with Director PPCS, we were exporting 95% of our lamb in carcass form. And then in the 1980s, the thing started to turn around, and we should be manufacturing, cutting the sheep up in New Zealand. And in a way, the same thing happened, but it went offshore with gloves. You could people making very good gloves offshore, and that really wasn't something that we should be doing in Geraldine. We should be importing these gloves rather than trying to. But New Zealand young people, we had a protected society. There were rules against you couldn't import stuff. When I grew up, you had to make it here. So that all that thinking changed, and we've started to go offshore.
Yeah, so were there any, and of course, men being men or people being people, they didn't necessarily like wearing gloves. So there was a sort of, there was quite a change in people's ideas about wearing gloves and protecting your hands. So that all sort of helped with the evolution of it, didn't it? And then I guess, as you were saying, Lindsay Phillips found the shower glove overseas. And what was different about that compared with the leather glove?
Well, really, gardening, it goes back to what you just said, people, I guess, didn't even wear gloves for gardening. No. And the show had produced that really attractive, nice.
That was a nice dipped sewing glove that had been dipped in rubber and nitrile type backing, which really revolutionised gloves and the feel and the fit.
Yeah.
Let's move on. So your life, of course, was wrapped up with Lynn River and growing that side of the business, but of course passionately involved in farming and Mount Peel Station, you and Mark. So what other things were happening? Because you never sat still, you two. So
that's right. Well, for instance, which funny enough goes a bit with the air tags, when I talked about the Charolais cattle, Australia was the only country in the world No, sorry, New Zealand was the only country in the world that Australia could buy cattle from. Right. So we imported them from England, multiplied them here, and then sold them off to the Australians. Right. Many people talk about live sheep. We were exporting live cattle on boats out of Timaru 50 years ago. Right. So it's not something new. But we were inseminating here Angus cows with Charolais semen. Pat Sugar inseminated 600 cows in 1 year, beef cows. Well, that was pretty unusual. And then the first cross animal we'd put on a boat and send them to Australia. Instead of getting a few $100s on the New Zealand market, we were selling it for $2,000 or $3,000. So we were doing that. And then because of our Australian connection with Richard Trivett and the Gunn family, we then got into the live sheep export as well. We exported ewes to Peru and to Chile and to Mexico, boatloads of them.
Did either Mark or John or either of you ever go on one of these trips?
I never did. Mark might have, but when we sent the cattle to Australia, they were only quite small ships, and we sent Pat Sugar and Ian Dent at times, and they were so violently seasick they were no good to anybody. So that was, and really Lynn River was sitting, we were determined that Lynn River, we loved Geraldine, we liked everything about Geraldine, and realised a great place to have a business, small business. We really just let that tick along out to one side. We probably we didn't have any involvement day by day. And really, then we had to have when the glove business started to really go, we had to have a change of management, and that's really when you came on board and restructured the whole business and really lifted it up to a totally different level. And we couldn't have continued with the management that we had, and so they moved on and we changed direction, and just the whole thing's...
We had a board set up, of course. You've had a board set up to run the company for long before I ever became involved.
Yeah, we did. But that was just Mark and I, and really, George, we just... I popped in more often because I was interested in the people out the back and doing the work, and about the old families. I mean, there's people who work there whose forebears had worked here on Mount Peel. And all that was there. No, I didn't take enough. We should have had outside people around the board as well. Because Brother Mark, come on, he'd just breeze in and breeze out and be doing something completely different the next day. And of course, by that time, also Mark decided to sell Waikari Hills and the part we'd developed up there and went to Mount Somers. So he had entirely... That
was a big move for both of you, really, to actually sort of break your personal partnership in a way, wasn't it?
Correct.
So just let's talk about that a bit and how that all sort of came to bear and happened, and the success of both of the ventures.
Well, it was. I mean, I relied on Mark really more than he relied on me. But on the other hand, I did all the sort of bookwork and all that stuff, and he did the development. So it was I said to him, goodness me, we've developed Waikari Hills, built a homestead, built a wool shed, did hundreds of miles of fencing, and made a beautiful place. Somebody said to Mark, I don't know, Mark's he's got a pacemaker, and how are you going to be able to do all this? And Mark said, oh, don't worry, I just wound the pacemaker up so it'd go a bit faster to keep up with the rest of me. And that was the way he operated. So it all happened, and then that Waikari Hills went out of the family for 5 years, and then we'd had the opportunity to buy it back again, and we got it
That's
back.
Mount Peel, buying it back. In the meantime, Mark had gone to Mount Somers.
Mount Somers, that's right. But the thing, I guess when you say that to me, but the thing we had in common still was equal partnership in shareholding in Lynn River.
Yes.
And so we still were coming together
Yes.
and talking about what we might do or how we might do it, or trying to have ideas. But we were a bit lost there in that middle bit.
So Mark developed Mount Somers and made a success of that?
Yes, he did. Certainly did. A huge success of that. Yeah.
So really, when you look at your farming ventures, one could say, well, you had Mount Peel Station, which was carrying, what, 25?
Yeah, well, if you look at it, George, if you look at it in stock units, Mark and I started Mount Peel and we had about 6,000 or 7,000 stock units. You know how you measure stock units?
Yes.
If you look at Mount Peel and Mount Somers, we end up with 60,000 stock units, 30,000 stock units on both places. So, I mean, we grew those to enormous.
Pretty big effort in development.
Yeah,
yes.
Huge effort in
along with your live sheep export, Lynn River, Shearers.
That's right.
What else?
We did a feedlot.
Feedlot.
We did nearly come unstuck, but we didn't put any money into it. We were getting into the shrimp business, into fishing. That wasn't. We got a report done by Roger Bonifant to ask what was the viability of that. He did quite a big report and probably charged us a few bob for it. But the last sentence was, Acland brothers know nothing about fishing, keep the hell out of it.
Yes. And did you take his advice?
Yes, well, he certainly did.
Good.
Yeah. So but others, we looked at buying, putting a bid for Richmond Station in the ski field.
Yes.
We bid for that. We put in a bid for High Peak Station.
Yes.
Mount Possession.
So is this together or individual?
Together, those ones took in a bag.
After you'd...
But really, George, with the idea that we realised that long term, next generation would have to have two separate family units. So we were looking ahead like that, whether that, and we looked at all those different things and dabbled a bit, but not,
So you're pleased with the way that all turned out, and how the next generation now have sort of come into the farming businesses.
Right. Yep. So both of us got family who are interested in keeping a, And Lynn River. Well, I would really hope that Lynn River would keep on going in Geraldine. I think that there's no reason not to have businesses in small towns throughout New Zealand. You see, when I grew up, to shift a parcel from Geraldine to Auckland, it had to go on a bus or truck down to Orari railway station, then it had to go by law on rail to Auckland, and probably a week or 10 days later it would get there. So with the government freeing everything up like that on the way we transport and shift parcels around, when you're shifting parcels, it means they can do it. Yeah. I'm arguing a bit against myself, but the air tag business worked because it was, the parcel size was just in the post size, whereas Lynn River Peel Forest store wouldn't cope with that.
No. So, John, let's go back to the beginning. This is where you actually ran your Mount Peel business from, in the original building. So just explain a bit about this building to start with. This
building was built in about 1865, with the bricks made here on the place.
Yes.
And the homestead, which is just down there,
yes,
just a short distance away. But and it actually had a little veranda on it originally as well, and it was the home for Michael Mitten, who was the first manager on Mount Peel.
Yeah.
And you can't see it now, but there are actually 2 bedrooms upstairs. And when we'll walk in now, and I'll open the door, and you can see.
It's a lovely building, building.
Yes.
So you'd come out here most days, or would have been in here it's a bit cold in the morning. Did you come here in the afternoons?
But we always met here in the morning, 7:30,
All
would
your
meet,
team.
that all the team would meet here,
Yes.
not in there, outside
Yes.
there, and we'd go
Yeah.
in here, and you can see, sorry, there's a couple of boxes here. This is our son's office, he runs the place.
This box here, I think,
Yeah.
has got some significance.
Yes,
Tell us
yes.
about this.
Well, that box there, and it was on the side of the stairs there, and that's where the mailman put the orders. The
For
tag
the
tag
air-
orders.
yeah, for the
Tag
tag.
orders were in there,
Right.
and then on this side there was another one on there. Once Mark and I had processed those, one of us would race back here at 4:30 to get the tag and get the orders for the day, because the mailman would have been,
Yes.
and we'd put on them and they'd go there, and then go from there down to the packing shed.
Was there a level of excitement?
Yeah, there was.
In these orders to
Yeah,
see what
imagine
had come
getting
in.
an order for 1,000 tags with
Yes.
lanterns and surfer or something like that.
Yes.
No, it was.
So, John, after you'd got the orders from the office, of course, you had all these air tags coming to the farm.
Yep.
So, is this the original place where, in fact, they came and everybody picked and packed
Yep.
the orders?
Yep.
So, let's go and have a look.
No different to your
Yes.
pick and pack.
Yes.
Same system, different shed.
Slightly different shed.
Well, this was where the shearers slept originally,
Right.
in this building. And that was the cook shop down there.
Yes.
I just might need you to launch the store back.
Yeah, let's have a go.
Stuff.
Let's see
Stuff. Go on.
what's in behind the door.
Right.
Right. Oh, well, look what we're met by.
Look what's here.
Yeah, packing chair there. So,
The lorry had come in here with presumably bigger crates of tags, and they were there. And we had sorting tables along here. We had nice heaters to keep the girls warm, because the women on the station did the work.
wow, well, it's gone through a number of changes, and it looks like
So-
it's a storage shed now for old furniture.
Yes, you're right. You're right.